Hey, what's up guys? Ready to hit the town? Right now it's April 14th, 2001 at 5 p.m. Want to get started? Animal Crossing is a very weird game to try to explain to those who've never played it. The first question you're always asked is, well, what do you do in Animal Crossing? Well, you live in a town full of animals and you talk to them and you do favors for them, go fishing and bug catching, and you can also dig up fossils. It sounds riveting, I know, but if you're somebody who clicked on this video with hopes of understanding what the game is truly about, I can assure you that it's much more than what lies on the surface, so I guess the best way to start off is from the beginning. So when you first start the game, you're on a train in first-person view. A cat named Rover sits down in front of you and begins asking you questions like what's your name and where you're going, and a bunch of other questions that the game uses to create your character. It's such an organic way to start off the game. Once you arrive in the town in which you told Rover you're moving to, you're greeted by Tom Nook, who acts as your tour guide and also as a real estate agent for you. After you pick out a house, you realize that you don't have enough money to pay for it, so Tom Nook offers you a part-time job at his store to help pay off the debt, which the job itself is really just a hidden tutorial for the game. All he has you do is just run errands, like sending items to villagers and sending out mail and whatnot. But once you complete a certain number of tasks, he sends you off into the world to do whatever you want. This is where the game truly begins. So for me at this point, I bought a shovel and began digging up all the dig spots I kept seeing all over the place up until this point that were just taunting me, only to find fossils and gyroids. The fossils had to be examined by the faraway museum before you could donate them to the local museum, which kinda sucked, but it was always kinda cool logging into the game and getting those fossils back in the mail from the faraway museum. The gyroids, on the other hand, were these mystery item things. I remember getting my very first one and setting it down in my house, and I just looked at it and I was like, oh, this is just like that dancing boy outside my house, but this one makes cool noises. I instantly fell in love with them and I just started hoarding them. I even set up another town on my second Gamecube memory card just to store more of my gyroids. Once you really get going in the game, you start to upgrade your house and you start just customizing it to your own liking. I remember my living room mostly consisted of a part of my gyroid collection vibing out to the tune of KK Bosa with a nice mountain wallpaper and a cream sofa to sit on, and of course you gotta have your magic conch shell just out on the table. My basement was a mess of part of my gyroid collection and my collection of town model pieces. One of my favorite parts about the basement was this slot machine, which I messed around with maybe a little bit too much. But lastly, one of my favorite rooms was the upstairs, which was an in-home arcade, which was filled with these NES games, and I honestly really loved that Nintendo put all these NES games into the game. I remember coming into this room and playing games like Balloon Fight, Donkey Kong Jr. Math, and Excite Bike. I also really love how there's an April Fool's NES game called Super Tour Timer, which isn't a game you can actually play, but it's still really cool that it's in the game. After you repay the loan on your house, Tom Nook builds you a statue in your honor, which I really love and I really wish this would return in a future game. By the time you get to this point, Tom Nook will probably upgrade his store multiple times, which feels like the biggest part of the progression system in this game. When you first start off, he has a shack, and just watching that shack grow into a full supermarket looking store is just really cool. Beyond home customization and making donations to the museum, Animal Crossing is a game that's just really all about the small things. Like just simply talking to the villagers and asking them if you could do favors for them. Like when Cody asks you to get his handkerchief back from Winnie, so you go to Winnie's house and you're all like, yo, let me get that handkerchief back, and she's like, funny thing about that, Bunny actually just walked up here and stole it. So then you hunt Bunny down, she's just like, oh, you mean this thing? You can just have it. Then you return the handkerchief to Cody and he's all like, oh, thanks dog, here's some paper for your effort. Then you just have to sit there and ask yourself, was that all worth it? I don't know, probably. One of the best things about Animal Crossing is that there's always something going on. Like every Saturday night out by the train station, you can listen to KK Slider play you some tunes as the credits for the game roll, and after he's done playing you a song, he will then give you a CD of that song that you can just take home and listen to it whenever. If you played the game into the wee hours of the night, you might encounter a ghost named Whis who would ask you to help him out by catching some spirits for him with your bug net, and in return he would either give you an item, paint your roof, or pull the weeds in your town. If you didn't save the game, Mr. Rossetti would harass you about the importance of saving and sometimes even pretend to delete your save or turn off the game entirely. At the end of every month, you could participate in a raffle at Tom Nook's store and you could win some really cool prizes. The game also had holidays and events year-round. If you played the game on the 4th of July, there would be a fireworks show. On Halloween, the villagers would dress up as a character named Jack, and then you would have to find the real Jack and give him candy, and in return he would give you Halloween items. But at the same time, the villagers would harass you and run up to you yelling, "Trick or treat," and if you didn't give them candy, they would turn your clothes into rags. On Thanksgiving, the whole town would have a feast by the wishing well. During this event, you could find a turkey hiding around town named Franklin, who'd ask you to steal the forks and knives from the feast, and in return he would give you Thanksgiving items. On Black Friday, they have a day called Sale Day, in which Tom Nook sells these mystery bags containing 3 items. But what I liked about the mystery bags is they always came with a pinwheel, which is a pretty useless item, but I just love them too much. On Christmas Eve, you could find Jingle running around town, who's the Animal Crossing equivalent to Santa, and if you found him several times, who would then give you a Christmas-themed item. I think one of my favorite holidays is Groundhog's Day, surprisingly, because all that happens is that at 8 a.m., the town gathers around the wishing well, and Mr. Rossetti pops up and says, "Spring is around the corner. Okay, now scram." It's just so simple, but I love it. There's also plenty of random events, like the Cherry Festival, which is kind of like Thanksgiving, minus the Franklin part, but what's cool is that all the tree leaves turn pink, and then the leaves just kind of like blow in the wind. There's also a fishing tourney, which is run by Chip, who's really only hosting this event to eat free fish. The sports fair is a whole day of activity starting at 9 a.m. with the aerobics, which you can actually participate with the C-stick. At 11 the foot race begins, and you can just race the villagers around the wishing well. At 1 p.m. the ball toss starts, which is kind of boring because you can't participate in it. And lastly at 3 p.m. the tug of war begins, which like the ball toss you can't participate in, but this one for me is a little bit more entertaining to watch. During the winter you could build snowmen, and these snowmen could speak. The villagers would also build igloos that you could hang out with them in and gamble. There were also golden tools in the game, which I was only ever able to get the golden shovel because it was the easiest. All you had to do was just bury a shovel in a golden dig spot, and if you were lucky a tree would grow there with golden leaves, and when you shook it, it would drop the golden shovel. Honestly, the golden trees were really cool, and I don't know why they didn't return to future games. If you were a cool kid and you had the Game Boy Link cable, you could visit the island, which was a really cool spot to catch fish and bugs. Also, there were coconut trees and exclusive island villagers. On top of that, you get an island house, which I mainly used for storage. And if you were an even cooler kid with the e-reader, you could use Animal Crossing e-reader cards to get special items, which I definitely was not a cool kid, so I was always taunted by the presence of the e-reader machine in the post office. But I'm an adult now who has an e-reader and knows how to irresponsibly spend his money on eBay. Visiting other towns via the train was really cool. I liked how sometimes you could meet Blanca on the train rides, who's this faceless cat, and she would let you design her face and you could just do whatever you want with it. I also liked the Easter egg where if you turned off your game while you were in another town, you would get this creepy gyroid face next time you played the game. Animal Crossing at its core is just a really relaxing game that you'll play a little bit of daily. You usually get on and do some digging, fishing, bug catching, see what Tom Nook has going on in his store, do any holiday or event activities, and just talk and do favors for your favorite villagers until they leave and move to the town on your second memory card. Cleo, please come back, I'm so sorry, and most importantly, have fun. Animal Crossing is a game that I think really deserves the E rating because it truly is a game for everyone. My little brother and sister, who aren't even really gamers, played Animal Crossing and love it, and it's still something we bond over to this day. There are just so many little things in Animal Crossing that just make it such a great experience. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to save your game so Mr. Rossetti doesn't scream at you, and let me know down in the comment section what you love about Animal Crossing. Also, if you're excited for Animal Crossing New Horizons, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. But until next time, bye bye!